$8,500 Bitcoin sounds insane. It's way too low, right? Maybe Bitcoin hits 14,000 or 15,000, somewhere in there, but 8,500, even 10,000 seems way too low for BTC. However, I'm going to show you something in today's video, a pattern that is insinuating we could move that low over the coming weeks, and also a trend line from the last bear market that could serve as support if BTC does move toward that area. Now, if you guys are enjoying this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon for notifications so that you don't miss out on these videos. All right, so the Bitcoin daily time frame, I want to show you the last few patterns that have developed here so we kind of get a sense of what's going on over the past few months and where Bitcoin could be headed over the next few weeks and months. All right, so back here you can see where we had this bear flag. So this was a massive pattern that extended all the way from January of this year all the way here to May. Now, we never did get a retest of this level as new resistance. You can see where the market did just break lower and it never looked back. However, here's the thing. So the objective of these patterns is found using what's called the flagpole. So here's the flagpole from this high down here to the low right before this consolidation started. So what you do is take the height of that. So I'm going to turn off log view so we can draw a vertical level here. So down here to 33 approximately. So this was about the low and up here to the all-time high. Okay, so if we copy this over from the high of this consolidation, okay, within that bear flag pattern, then we get the objective here for Bitcoin. Now, the interesting thing about this is that BTC, despite having lost a lot of ground over the last few months, Bitcoin still has not reached that objective from this channel that broke down back here in May. Okay, because the objective here comes in all the way around $12,000. Just above $12,000 is the objective for this bear flag that broke down again back here in May. Okay, so this down here is the objective and we still haven't reached that. We saw a low of about 17,600 from Bitcoin, but we have not seen anywhere close to $12,000. Now, to be clear, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin will reach $12,000 because objectives like this are more of a guideline for the market. They are never a guarantee. Okay, so we may see Bitcoin move that low, but it's not a guarantee. However, there is a pattern that's setting up now. You can see where we have a much smaller bear flag pattern that is developing. Okay, so the objective for this pattern, once again, if we take the height of this, okay, so from this high up here, I'm going to be conservative because I could technically draw it from this high up here. Okay, so this one instead of this one. However, I'm going to be a little bit conservative here and choose this second one. So once again, from the high to the low, we take this and we copy it over and move it to this recent high. Now, this assumes that Bitcoin breaks down from this pattern before taking out this high up here, because obviously if the market were to move higher and take out this high, then you'd have to draw this from that new high. Okay, so this does assume a few things. However, if we look at this, the objective in this case is right around $8,500, okay, just above $8,000. Now, again, that may seem insane to some of you. Some of you may be saying, you know, yeah, $8,000, $10,000 Bitcoin, I can see that happening given everything that's going on out there right now. But to many of you, you may be watching this thinking, Justin's lost his mind. What the heck is he talking about? There's no way BTC is ever going to see 8,500 bucks, much less $10,000. Okay, and that may be true. I could be totally wrong here. And this is not me saying that Bitcoin is going to these levels because, again, there is no guarantee. But what I am saying is we have to assume, right, that it is possible, because I'm sure that right now a lot of people are thinking that this $20,000 area is the bottom for Bitcoin, because let's face it, a year ago, if you had asked somebody during the next bear market, where is Bitcoin likely to bottom out? They would have said $20,000, right? It's the obvious area. But what we have to remember is that this bear market is unlike any other, because in previous bear markets, for Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market, stocks were in an uptrend. Okay, yes, they had pullbacks along the way, but for the most part, they were in an uptrend. We were not facing high inflation, and the Fed was generally accommodative throughout that entire period. However, what we're dealing with right now is very different from anything that crypto has been through in the past decade. Because right now we have inflation hitting 40-year highs. We have the Fed tightening. In fact, it's the most aggressive tightening that we've ever seen from the Fed. And furthermore, the world is facing a recession, okay? And crypto has never been through a global recession. It wasn't even around during the 2008, 2009 great financial crisis. So anything that you think you know or anything from previous cycles really needs to be, either thrown out the window or reevaluated significantly, because again, this is unlike anything we've ever seen. So could Bitcoin move toward 8,500? Let's put this on the chart and see where that would put this market. So $8,500, again, that's the objective of this smaller flag pattern. And also the objective of this larger pattern up here, like I said, is right around 12,000 or just above it. Now, immediately here on the weekly time frame, you can see that this area just above $12,000, which again is the objective, okay, of this bear flag that broke down in May. So this objective right here, okay, does line up with several significant highs throughout the last bear market. All right, so this is going to be, in my opinion, a very significant level. But could BTC hit 8,500, right? That's the big question. Is it going to bottom at 12,000 or 8,500? And I have to say that nobody knows the answer to that. I don't know where it's going to bottom. Nobody knows the answer to that. But it's never about knowing. It's coming up with key levels and then watching how the market reacts there to come up with a game plan. Okay, so if we look here, 8,500, let's take a look at this. Now, through this area, it really wasn't all that significant. We had this high right back here. But for the most part, the market was just kind of chopping around there. There's some support and resistance through this consolidation, but for the most part, 8,500 isn't nearly as significant as that area right around 12,000. However, if we draw a trend line off of the previous cycle peak, all right, off of this high back here, you can see that we do get an area between $8,000 and $9,000. Now, I realize that this trend line is not all that significant. However, what I do find interesting is the fact that BTC has every single cycle put in a trend line similar to that. So if we look all the way back here at the first kind of mini bear market for Bitcoin, you can see where we have a trend line off of some of these highs. Now, this was obviously a very steep level just because of how volatile Bitcoin was back then. And if we move out here to the next bear market, you can see that we also have something very similar through here. Okay, now notice the angle difference between these two bear markets, and this is simply because Bitcoin is becoming a little less volatile every single cycle. Now, the current one that we're referring to here is going to be even less steep than the one from back here. So notice how every time this angle gets a little less steep, and that's to be expected because, again, Bitcoin is becoming a little less volatile each cycle. Okay, now Bitcoin has never tested this level as new support. Obviously back here, it broke out, never looked back. Once again here, broke out, never looked back. So why would Bitcoin retest this level now? Okay, potentially retest it. We don't know if it's going to or not. But if it did, it would also make sense because, again, this cycle is unlike anything we've seen before. So this notion that Bitcoin can never hit, $8,500 or $12,000 or whatever it may be, I think that you have to seriously reevaluate that, because you look at the S&P 500 being off its all-time high by just 20% and Bitcoin trading just below $20,000. Well, guess what? If the S&P 500, if we are in a recession, which all signs point to it, if the S&P 500 loses 40, 50%, right, which is pretty typical for a bear market for stocks, then you're looking at Bitcoin much lower than where it is even right now. And I'm not talking, $16,000 or $17,000. It's very likely that we could see this market head down toward that area between $8,000 and $12,000 to retest this level. I know it's never happened before, but we've also never seen crypto experience a recession. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. This is unlike anything we've ever seen before. It's uncharted territory. And a lot of you will say, well, then how do you know it's going to test between 8 and 12,000? And as I said, I don't know that, but I do think that we have to keep an open mind to that possibility. So once again, the objective for this smaller bear flag here does point to 8,500. We also have another key level that comes in right around 12,300 or so. Okay, so right around this area, again, we have a lot of highs from the last bear market during that consolidation. So a retest of either of these levels, I think, has to at least be considered during this period with everything going on. And the last thing I'm going to say here is, looking on Twitter, a lot of people are thinking that either the bottom's in, or if it's not in, maybe we see Bitcoin between like $15,000 and $17,000. Okay, and I think what could play out here, because I'm of the camp that we haven't seen the low just yet. So I think what could play out here is we see Bitcoin move quite a bit lower than that $15,000 to $17,000 range that many retail traders expect right now. And by much lower, I'm talking about that $8,000 to $12,000 region over the coming weeks and months. So I think that would catch a lot of people off guard, especially people who are going to be bidding this thing between $15,000 and $17,000. If we saw a drop to $12,000 and especially $8,500 or so, that's going to catch a lot of people off guard. And that's what you would expect, because typically when retail expects one thing, the market does the other. Okay, so I don't think that we've had a macro bottom here for Bitcoin. That's just my opinion, but I don't think that the low is in just yet. And I do think that that $15,000 to $17,000 range that you see everybody talking about on Twitter could really get smashed here over the coming weeks. All right, so that's it for today's video. With all of that said, though, I'm not opposed to playing the long side if we do see these markets reclaim some key levels. I'll be sure to have some info on that on Twitter as things unfold. But as of right now, I think that when you talk about months, right, over the next 6 to 12 months, I just don't think that the bottom is in for Bitcoin. I do think we could head quite a bit lower, potentially between $8,000 and $12,000. All right, so I hope you found the content helpful. If you did, be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon for notifications. Don't forget to smash that like button and also leave your comment below. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.